Hello guys, hopefully by now you would have seen my Ibiza FR video. Now whilst I was at SEAT, I also had a chance to drive an SE model. Now it's priced from £14,000 and it sits between the entry level S model and the FR model, and it comes with a choice of two engines. So you can either have a 1 litre petrol unit which produces 74 brake horsepower, or you can have an engine I tested here which is also a 1 litre petrol unit but it produces 94 brake horsepower. Now in regards to equipment, you get 15-inch alloys, front fog lamps with cornering function, LED tail lights, 5-inch colour touchscreen and a leather steering wheel. So in regards to engines, we've got the 95 PS model which is 94 brake horsepower. It's got 175 Nm of torque and it's made to tow a 5-speed manual gearbox. This means you will hit 62 miles per hour in 10.9 seconds and the top speed is 113. So as you would expect from a less powerful engine, it hasn't got the same amount of poke as the FR, but this isn't designed to be a sporty model. But having said that, the engine is quite smooth. It's still got a fair bit of poke, but obviously not quite as much. So this will give you 60.1 miles on a gallon, exactly the same as the FR, which is a little bit interesting. I thought this might have been a little bit more frugal because it's a smaller unit, but still pretty frugal. Now as I mentioned earlier guys, you can also have another 1 litre petrol unit which produces 74 brake horsepower, but as you would imagine the performance is rather limited. So it will hit 62 miles per hour in 14.7 seconds, which let's face it is rather pedestrian, plus the fuel economy isn't as good either. So if you are looking to buy the SE model, I would definitely recommend getting the engine I have here. And the steering, that's still pretty good. Can't really test it properly down here because these roads aren't quite as windy, but so far it feels okay. Once again, it is on the light side, but it feels relatively direct. It doesn't feel as direct as the FR, but like I said earlier, that's a more sportier model. But this one feels a little bit more wallowy, but it is meant to be aimed more at comfort and refinement, and it is quite comfortable. Well, very comfortable in fact. It's quite nice and refined in here. Now the inside isn't quite as nice, although I do actually kind of prefer this kind of silver grey trim on the dashboard. It's kind of a matte finish, and I just think, I was going to say it looks a little bit classier, but what I mean by that is that it's not going to really stain, or it's not going to attract fingerprints or dust like the black gloss trim in the FR. So I actually quite like the grey silver trim. It's quite nice. So I've got 5-speed manual instead of 6-speed manual. The changes aren't as nice if I'm honest, but they're not truly awful. The steering wheel also feels a little bit cheaper. It's still trimmed in leather, which is nice, but it doesn't feel quite as soft. The leather feels a little bit harder, but I suppose it's going to be harder wearing, but yeah, it's not quite as plush as the FR. But other than that, the inside is still a nice place to be. The seats are still nice and comfortable. The driving position is good. The steering wheel adjusts for rake and reach like the FR, so finding a good driving position is rather easy. As you would expect, the visibility is exactly the same. Got small door mirrors once more, which do look really sharp, but yeah, they're not. They don't offer you the greatest amount of visibility, but it's not truly awful. Now the ride is pretty smooth and compliant. Unlike the FR, it hasn't got the sport suspension, and it's riding on smaller wheels as well, and it feels nice and settled. This road surface isn't actually particularly good, but it's soaking it up quite well. Right, so we've got a few corners coming up. Let's see what's what. And it still feels pretty dynamic, if I'm honest. So I've got no complaints in that department. The brakes aren't quite as good. They still offer a fair amount of stopping power. So like the FR I drove earlier, this is built on Volkswagen's new platform, the MQB-A0 platform, designed to be quieter and more refined. And it is nice and quiet in here. It feels nice and composed. You can't really hear the engine. You can't really hear much of a tyre noise. You can't really hear much wind noise. There is a bit of wind noise, but that's being created by my GoPro on the side. But other than that, it's very civilised in here. Definitely feels grown up, but that's not to say you can't have fun with it. Okay, this is one of the slower engines available in the Ibiza range, but still pretty dynamic. Still have a bit of fun with it, and the car still rides and handles well. Now, for those of you wondering what space is like in the back, I did cover this in my Ibiza FR video, but just in case you haven't seen it, here it is again. So I've stepped into the back of another Ibiza, so this isn't an FR model, but even so, the legroom will still be the same. So in the new Ibiza, you get 35mm extra, and it certainly shows. Now, as always, the driver's seat has been altered for myself, and hopefully you can see I've got a fair bit of legroom, which is really good. Now, recently I've driven the Swift and the Fiesta, and both of which had quite disappointing rear legroom, but no such issue in the Ibiza, and the headroom is pretty good as well. So the back of the Ibiza is a pretty good place to be. So like the FR, the SE is a very good car indeed. Now, it's not the Ibiza I would have. I would much rather have the FR, of course, but for those of you that are looking for a well-priced hatchback that's comfortable, refined and grown up, the Ibiza is definitely worth looking at. I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. If you did, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for more car obsession.